Hi, my name's Kate Sargent from the Department of Primary Industries in Victoria. I'm the EverGraze project leader for the Future Farm Industry CRC, and today I'm going to show you how to use the feed budget and rotation planner to plan a grazing rotation on your farm. So the first thing you need to do when you get into the planner is click on data entry. When you get into data entry, you'll see that there's two options for rotation planners. There's the one based on food on offer and the one based on plant recovery. The one based on plant recovery is for grazing rotations based on leaf stage. So how long do you want to make your whole rotation? This one here for food on offer is based on how much do you want to graze each of your paddocks down to. So both of them work in a similar way and they give you the same outcome, but some people prefer to use one versus the other. So today I'm going to use the one based on food on offer, which is a little bit simpler. Okay. So the first thing I have to do when I get into the planner is name my rotation. So I'm going to say Kate's rotation. Okay. Now the start date of my rotation, I'm in May, so it's the 6th of May. Now that's the date that you want to measure all your pastures to say how much feed have you got at the start of your rotation period. The stock I've got on here are ewes. They're 60 kilos, they're lactating, and they've got twins on them, and you can see here that it's told me that the energy requirement of these ewes is 21.5 megajoules metabolizable energy per head per day. Okay, the number of animals in the rotation, I've got 500 of these ewes with twins, and the consumption wastage factor, this is the amount that the animals are going to waste through trampling and fouling the pasture. Usually it's somewhere around 30%. The decay wastage factor is really only useful for very low stocking rates or if it's spring and summer. So you don't actually need to use this through the growing season in most situations. So I'm just going to say that it's 0. Okay, so in here we've got the our area where we put the information about our paddocks. Now I've named the paddocks already. We've got the order of the paddocks in the rotation, so I'm just going to say that I'm going to run back paddock first, scrubby second, high camps 5th, houses 4th, knolls is 3rd, and Nix's cross is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th. Okay, now up here to put these paddocks in order, I just have to say recalculate pasture budgets. Alright, now it's put my paddocks in order for me. Alright. So the paddock area, I've already put these in, so that's pretty simple as to self-explanatory. The food on offer at the measurement date, to work this out you can use the tables in the back of the calculator. There's a little table there that you can use as a reference for height and density of the pasture. Alternatively, just do a visual analysis, and the Lifetime Wool website has this little photo gallery on it, and there's also a new web-based food gallery which is going to be released shortly. So, but my pastures, they range, so some of them are around about 1100, some of them are up to the 1700 mark. So back in my calculator, I've just put in between 1100 and 1600 depending on what I measured on the day. Okay. Now, the pasture quality. So the pasture quality is the digestibility and energy of the pasture, and you can see here that we've got some descriptions for what type of pastures we might have. So green and grassy versus 60% clover, etc. Okay, so some of my paddocks are better quality than others, so I've got 70% here for back paddock, 70% for scrubby, 80% for knolls, etc. Okay. So the estimated pasture growth per day, you can work this out once again using the table in the back of this calculator as a little bit of a guide, but the best thing to do to measure is to measure the growth yourself. So get a feel for your own farm, for the different paddocks and how they perform throughout the different seasons. My paddocks perform differently depending on which one I'm talking about. So 20, 15, I think that one will do about 20, 15 and 20. Okay, so this is through the May period. Now the target food on offer when I take the animals out. To work this out, it needs to be based on a few things. So firstly, the amount of feed the animals actually need. so my ewes, according to the tables in the back of the calculator, it tells me that they need about 1,000 kilos of most quality pastures, I think, to maintain themselves. So I'm just going to graze all of my pastures down to 1,000. Okay, now you can see over here that the energy intake from the pasture at the target food, in some cases where it's red, it's not actually meeting my animal requirements. And the reason for that is because I've got 70% digestibility over here for these pastures versus 80% for the ones that have gone black. So if I decided that I needed to meet my animal requirements in these paddocks, I might increase that to 1,500 kilos that I want to graze it down to, but obviously it's not going to last as long. So I'm going to live with a little bit lower than maintenance in these paddocks for this particular rotation. Now the other thing you need to consider when you're working out how long or how low to graze your pastures is the speed at which they're growing. So you can see here on the MLA pasture ruler, the green zone is the area at which it's going to grow the fastest. So between 1,200 kilos when it's got plenty of solar panels, but not too much shading, up to 2,200 kilos to stop it from growing at maximum rate. So that's the optimum region to be grazing your pastures, but obviously that's not always possible because you're not going to utilize your pastures in spring if your stocking rate is such that you're going to be keeping your pastures above 1,200 kilos in winter. So to maximize persistence, you at least need to leave your pastures above 800 kilos per hectare. So just keep that in mind. All right, so the next one is it's going to tell me what my food on offer will be when my animals go in, because of course from the time that the animals are grazing the pasture from my measurement date, it's going to be growing at the same time. So this column gives me how much feed I'm going to have when the animals go into each of the paddocks. This column here in Q gives us the consumption per head per day. Okay. The number of days the paddock will last to reach the food on offer is 4, 3, 1, 2, 2 and 2. Now I've got a few concerns about this because that gives me a total in the next column of 11 days that my rotation is going to run for. So by the 19th of May I'm going to be back to my first paddock again. So the reason this is a bit of a problem, if I go back to my slides over here, is because in order for my paddocks to be maintaining or to have enough rest to recover, they really need to be allowed to reach about the 3-leaf stage for most pastures. So, for example, perennial ryegrass recommended grazing time is at 3 leaves versus cocksfoot at 4 to 5, phalaris at 4, and tall fescue at 3. And the problem is that it actually takes time for these pastures to grow those leaves. So, for example, in summer it's about 70 days. The time that I'm looking at here is between 30 and 50 for my plant to recover. And the reason that it's important to allow it that time to recover is so that it does persist, but of course also it needs to regrow so that we're going to be able to go again in this rotation. So I'm just going to go back here and take some animals out of this paddock. So I'm just going to say that we're actually grazing 300. Alright, so how does my rotation look now? Okay, well I'm a little bit happier. It's 25 days now, and I've had a bit of a break, so my pastures I'm confident will recover. So the pasture growth rate between when the stock come out of the paddock and go into the next rotation, we just have to put this in to work out how much feed we're going to have when we start the next round. So I'm just going to say that all my pastures are going to grow at 20 kilos per hectare per day. So that tells me that the total days rest before the next grazing for each of my paddocks is going to be about 25 days on average. And the food on offer when I start the next rotation is going to be over in this column here at about 1,500 kilos for each of my paddocks. So if I click this button up here, save this rotation and enter the data for the next rotation. Okay, so now I'm going to say it's Kate's rotation 2. And if I scroll down with the same set of animals again, you can see here that the food on offer at the measurement date has become the food on offer that it calculated when the animals are starting the rotation again from the previous round. So that just gives you some idea as to how a rotation can be set up in this rotation planner. You'll end up with approximately what dates you're going to be moving stock in each of the paddocks, how long each paddock will last, and this just gives you a bit of a guide. But don't forget that if you're setting up these rotations, don't implement them blindly. You need to be out there monitoring both your pastures and your animals to make sure that things are going as planned. This just gives you a bit of a guide. Okay, so that's how you run the rotation planner. And for further information, go to the EverGraze website at www.evergraze.com.au. Thank you.